Hey everybody, Hooju here, and welcome to my hangar, my RC workshop. Not much of a workshop, of course, but today I just wanted to show you, I'll give you an update on a build that I just finally finished. Plane that I've had for over a year, and I just finally got it finished. Well, reasonably finished. I still have to put a receiver in the thing. I haven't done that yet. The Force RC 64mm F-18, just got her finished. The reason this took me so long, it doesn't take long to put these together. I knew in the back of my head that I was going to put some clear coat on it to give it that shine. I also knew that I was going to deck out the cockpit a little bit. So those are the things I'm going to go over as to what I did. The clear coat on this thing, as you can see, oh, she's got a really nice shine to her. I may have to turn the position a little bit so you can see some other aspects of it. But what I used was the Mini Wax polyacrylic. I just brushed it on with a foam brush, and it went on real nice. I put it on thin, but it went on real nice. I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do with the cockpit. Most airplanes I just leave the cockpit alone and take what they give me, but with the Blue Angel, when you gotta deck out the airplane as nice as it is, you got to do something with the pilot. Because the Blue Angel pilots, they never wear the oxygen mask, and the pilots they give you, they just don't look right for the airplane. This is what that same pilot figure looked like before I took an X-Acto knife to him and a paintbrush to him. This is just your generic 64mm pilot that some of your FMS planes will have. The Force RC plane that you see here that I'm working on has. Also the E-flite 64mm F-15 has a pilot very similar to this. It's just got a little bit of a different arrangement for the cockpit. So as you can see, there's no instrument panel, and the layout of the cockpit deck is just gray and black. Nothing special. Not unless you take a paintbrush to it and fix it up. So I had to carve off his oxygen mask, and I gave him a mic. I don't know if you can tell, but if you can see that his visor is gold, just like they have on the Blue Angels. I found some letters, some labels, these things right here. Found these gold colored labels at a hobby store for a couple bucks, and I knew that the widest point on these letters were just about what I needed for the visor. So I spent a few, about $2.50. I think it's about $2.50, yeah, to get this thing. And I took it, one of them, and I carved out that visor that he's wearing there, and I just glued it in place. You can also see that I gave him some real shoulder straps. That's electrical tape. It's doubled up electrical tape, so it looks like a strap. And I just taped it to the back of the seat back and down on his lap there. If you get the right angle on it, you can see he's got the full belt for a shoulder strap. I just wanted to give it a real look, so I decided to double it up right there and make it extend back to the seat back so it looked like a real shoulder harness. And I also painted the instrument panel. I don't know if you can see it very well, but this time around I went ahead and just painted an instrument panel instead of putting a sticker on it. So I did use black electrical tape for the screens, and I just kind of painted on the lines and the switches. And I also gave him some side consoles. Painted his legs and arms in there so it looked like he was flying the airplane, but that was how I decked it out. I don't know if you can tell, but I also put a visor, a glare shield over the top of the instrument panel, and what I used was electrical tape, and I doubled it up where it extends over the instrument panel so it looks like a glare shield. And of course I gave him his usual yellow helmet, so it looks like a Blue Angel pilot in there now, so it doesn't look like a nice Blue Angel jet with a really ugly fake looking pilot in there. She's 100% clear coated with a gloss all the way along. Alright, here's another profile view of it. get a look down underneath there. The bureau number and U.S. Navy. Hey guys, one of the last things I had to deal with on this airplane when I put it together, or when I painted it, I had to deal with the issue that we all have to deal with today in this day and age, and that is, where are you going to put the FAA registration number, especially on a plane like this? It's modeled, it's scale model of a real airplane. The Blue Angels don't go around with these big long FAA numbers on them, so you don't want to ruin your model and the scaleness by putting something on there that doesn't belong. You know, on some airplanes that don't necessarily, they're not necessarily modeled after anything in particular, just a brand of airplane, it doesn't matter so much. But you know, a lot of guys that have warplanes and they model them after a specific warplane, you know, from a specific squadron and a specific number. They don't want to ruin it by having to put their FAA number on there. And the Blue Angels is another prime example. You know, I had the Fat Albert C-130 that I got to deal with too. So I came up with this unique idea. Every military airplane and the models associated with them, they all have a bureau number underneath the horizontal stabilizer at the tail. Bureau number for civilian guys or GA purposes is nothing more than the serial number of the airframe. You know, on a civilian plane it'll be on a data plate. On a military plane it's painted on the fuselage underneath the tail. So this would be the serial number of the airframe. It's a good spot to substitute your FAA number instead of the bureau number. Now in this case here, you know, you can buy labels. You can buy these really small labels, about 1/4 inch, that are individual letters and number stickers for like $4 a sheet. I found them in the color white and in the color of black, and I think there was another one, another color, enough color, but I didn't find yellow, so I really couldn't use it for this model here. But what I did come up with was, I have this electrical tape. This blue almost perfectly matches the blue for this airplane. So I took a small strip of this blue, long enough to cover my numbers, or to hold my numbers if I painted them on, for my entire FAA number at that same size. And I just taped it down to a piece of sheet metal aluminum. You can use plexiglass, you can use clear plastic, you can use a kitchen table glass, whatever you want to use. You know, as long as it's not fabric or wood where the material is going to stick to it when you peel it back up. And I cut the thickness or the width of the tape to the width that I wanted my letters. So I just kind of cut it to about 1/4 inch strip and taped it down, and I used a small paintbrush and yellow paint, and I've gotten pretty good over the years, not just in modeling, but for other things. I was able to learn how to mark with a marker, and I can do that now pretty good with a very fine paintbrush. Paint numbers and letters so that they kind of look digital. But I did that. I painted my FAA number on that 1/4 inch strip. Then I peeled it back up after it dried off the base that I had it taped down to, and I just stuck it on over the bureau number, lined it up right. I cut a small strip of packing tape and I just taped right over where I did the where my blue tape was for the FAA number. So I'll show you a little bit about on the other side what it looks like. I don't want to give you the whole FAA number because I don't want that number broadcasted on YouTube all over the nation. So I'm just going to show you, you know, at least the first few digits. So here's the first few digits of my FAA number put underneath the stab, right where the bureau number would be, or the serial number of the airframe. That's what it looks like right now, with the tape over, the blue tape underneath it as a base and the clear packing tape over the top. Now I mentioned this the other night. I don't know how many of you guys ever watched the live stream that Pilot Ryan has. I think it's Pilot's RC Lounge, and he has a YouTube live feed on Saturday nights just talking about RC airplane stuff. I did mention this last week on there in a comment, and I think he read it and it got mentioned, using your FA number in the place of the bureau number. So Some people might start using that if they read that comment I made or if they heard him mention it. But I think it's a pretty good idea. As you can tell, it looks almost digital. The digits on the letters. But you can, with some practice, you can do that. Or you can just get labels and do the same thing. But that's what I have. And finally, one of the things I'm going to show you here before I put this airplane up. The balancing point on this airplane for the CG has always been not really controversial, but up for debate between many people. I did the same thing on this airplane as I did on my gray Vigilante, the FMS version of this plane, the 64mm gray F-18. I marked out where the manufacturer or the manual calls out for the center of gravity at the 80mm point. I also marked out a spot at the 70mm point and a spot at the 60mm point. Because a lot of guys have been saying they're setting theirs around somewhere between 60 and 65 or 60 and 70. So after marking that out, I put 3 drops of glue, just like I did on my gray jet. I also did this on my E-flite F-15. Probably different locations based on what they call for, but on the F-18s here, I got 3 drops of glue that are hardened. They're like little beads. One is at the 80mm point, one is at the 70, and one is at the 60. And they dry that way. I did the same on both wings, the same location. You can see them right there. And the reason I have that is for field center of gravity checks. And it also gives me room to play with where I want the CG. I can put my fingers on the dots for 80, 70, and 60, and I can put my fingers between 2 dots for 75 and 65. So I know where the balance is just given where my fingers are on the underside of the wing. So that's it, guys. That's all I got. I just wanted to show you this thing all finished and completed. Not sure when it's going to get maidened, but I have 3 airplanes all built to maiden this spring. It's actually almost summer. So, and a couple that I'm going to build. I'm not sure exactly what the next build is going to be. If it's going to be either the F-16, the F-16 70mm Thunderbird that you see people flying now, or the C-130. I got a feeling it's going to be the C-130. I got to get that one clear coated just like this. So the C-130 is probably going to be my next build. Thanks for watching, guys.